All right, it's been a while and I am truly sorry for that. It's been a very busy time and I only got the notification the other day from YouTube that it's been over 90 days since I uploaded the last video, and it really feels like maybe 2 weeks in my mind at least. But here we are. Anyway, we got the coffee shop open. We opened up on May 2nd, and maybe you're thinking about doing this for yourself, or you're curious about what goes into opening a business like this, at least in the UK, and today that's what I'm going to cover. But before we get into all of that,
I'll tell you what we purchased and why. We decided to purchase another business rather than start from scratch ourselves. The business that we bought was called Troost. It'd been trading for about 3 years and was a specialty coffee shop, and we bought everything, all the assets inside, and all the team transferred over as well. And we felt like it had a pretty good location. It's just across the road from the Grand Hotel, which it's seen better days if I'm honest, but it's a pretty iconic building. It's got a lot of history and heritage in the area. And just around the corner from that is the funicular, which is a cliff railway which runs down to South Bay. I think it's one of the oldest in the UK, actually. It opened up in 1875, and there's a lot of footfall to both those things. And just adjacent to funicular is a fantastic lookout as well over the harbour and the beach below. And certainly from the front of our business, you can get a little bit of an ocean view. So not too far away from the high street, not too far away from the beach. And given the heritage of the area and the trading history of the business, it just felt like an absolute no-brainer. If we were going to do a standalone, our first standalone business, it seemed like a really safe bet.
I'll give you a quick walk around about the business and go over what we've done, how this is a little bit different to our other location over in SEMA. So let me pick you up, you can come with me. So say hello, Charlie. So it's a much smaller business than the other one. Obviously the food hall is a bigger space, about 60 covers, and we operate inside of that. Here we've got about 20-25 covers inside and a few more outside. So we've got this front of house area here, and then another area out the back, which we haven't really done anything with yet. We do need to, because it feels a little bit like a box room in here with no natural light. And then of course a bathroom and so on at the rear here. We do have a basement, but that's kind of damp and not used for anything at the moment, maybe in the future. So in terms of like the offer, it's pretty much the same actually as the other one. We have the same soft drinks. We have 3 coffees on espresso at any one time, decaf, and then a choice of 2 single origins. Charlie's just dialing in the coffees here before we open in a few minutes. Biggest change would be the machine. So here we've got a Victoria Arduino Maverick, whereas in SEMA we've got the Victoria Arduino Eagle 1. It's a better machine, a bit higher up in the range for Victoria Arduino, and the reason we went with this, one is its gravimetrics, meaning there are little scales that hang on the back of the machine on the drip tray there, and the espresso or the cup sits on top of that, and the machine's able to weigh the coffee as it pours, so we get completely accurate yield every single time, and that's a little bit more reliable than the flow sensors which use flow of water on the VA Eagle ones. But more importantly, beyond its looks, it also has a function called PureBrew. So something that we offer here that we are unable to offer in our other location is what is effectively a pour over. So we have these boards, and we have a different kind of filter, a conical filter, that goes into the portafilter on the espresso machine, and there is a special PureBrew mode on here which we can just flip to, and then what that does, rather than just pour water through like it normally would, it has like a bloom time where it's going to jet some water over the top of the coffee that goes into here. It's a bit of a coarser grind that goes in here, of course. And then it will pulse the water through a bit like it would in a pour over machine, or replicating what would happen if you were pouring it over manually. And the result is you're going to get a carafe of coffee that's a much more sort of sweeter or aromatic kind of flavour than you might normally get from just an espresso, for example, which is a lot more intense. Now I'm going to talk through some of the numbers and what we did here and why. Whilst I give all that information, I'll cut to some footage that we caught on Sunday this week, where Matt was sitting our very first internal barista exam. So that's something that we do every quarter, where the team can go through and sit what is basically an SCA, Specialty Coffee Association intermediate level exam, just to sort of prove their barista skills. And if they complete the exam successfully, then we give them a pay rise and they get the the accreditation internally and so on. So, and then I'll talk through all the numbers whilst Matt does his thing.
We purchased the business for £40,000 in total. Now that's the acquisition of Troost, as it was, all the assets and transferring the team over and so on. We signed a new lease, so that was separate to the purchase of the business. And we broke that payment into two parts. First was an upfront cash payment of £20,000. And then the other 20,000, we agreed to what's called vendor financing, where basically we pay back that £20,000 out of the takings of the business each month until it's paid. So we broke that into 12 equal payments, £1,666. And then by the end of year one, we will have completed the total purchase and paid the £40,000 in its entirety. However, that was not it. There was about the same again in everything else that goes into getting the business to where it is now. So the overall total spend, and this is just the opening costs, obviously we've bought stuff since, came to £80,392.02. And I broke that down into a few categories. So in no particular order, in terms of IT and equipment for IT systems, so this is things like the iPads which you use as point of sale, and the screens that sit next to the espresso machine and in the kitchen to tell you the orders that are coming up and so on. That came to £1,900.72. For legal fees, that's the drafting of the asset purchase agreement, which is the paperwork that we use to formalize the purchase of the business from the former owners. That came to £2,025, and there's also some lease review fees in there for signing the new lease with the existing landlord. Joinery, which was putting in the breakfast bar. We put up some shelves behind the bar to soften up the space a little bit and make it feel a little bit longer when you walk in and you see these things stretching away from the entranceway down to the end of the business. That came to £1,800. All of the electrical work, that's under shelf lighting that went behind the bar, down lighting at the bottom of the bar. We put in new plug sockets at the breakfast bar so you could charge your phone and your laptop and so on. And we put a couple of other plug sockets around the front of house area where it was required, but the bulk of it was the stuff behind the bar and at the breakfast bar. That came to £1,248. Espresso equipment, this is a big one. Now, I've included this in the upfront startup costs, but the reality is we lease the espresso equipment, and that payment's going to be spread out over a few years. But in total, the coffee machine, the grinders, the installation, the filters, and so on that goes along with that came to £21,516.89. I would say that if you are opening your own coffee shop and you're trying to get a sense of the budget, I think you could spend a lot. No, I know you can spend a lot less than this. We did specifically go for the best equipment that we could afford, and that wouldn't make sense for just anybody. For us, this coffee shop acts as like a showroom for our roastery business, and it's really important that we offered the very best that we could possibly achieve, and that's really the part of the market that we were aiming for to differentiate as well. So we spent a lot. I think you could spend half or even less than that and still make a good product. So that's probably the biggest variable cost out of all of this between businesses, I would say. Insurances, that came to £1,078.64. So this is just public liability insurance, contents insurance, and so on for the business. Plumbing work, that came to £684. We put in a sink on the back bar. We tidied up a few things around drainage and so on. So not an awful lot. Kitchen equipment, that came to £2,500. We bought a new milk fridge under the bar because the old one was broken. We bought a soft drinks fridge to put in the front of house, so it'd be more attractive looking at all the soft drinks we sell and try and improve conversion on that. And we also fixed all of the fridges and serviced all the fridges that were in the kitchen as well. So quite a lot went into the kitchen equipment category. Sundries, supplies, uniforms, basically everything else came to, well, a whopping £5,797.66. I will break that one down a little bit. Just at Nisbets alone, so this is where we bought all of the stirrers, napkins, cleaning chemicals, bins, bin liners, and all that kind of stuff. That was £1,924.91. So sundries, I guess, all the essentials that you need to run the business effectively. Stuff just to do with the espresso machine came to about £478. We spent £370 on our refractometer, for example. Again, I'm not sure every coffee shop would need that. We opted for it, but you might not need to if you're doing this yourself. Uniforms, admittedly, this is a bigger cost than would naturally apply to just this business. We spent £2,243.89 on uniforms, and that was uniforms for our entire team across both locations. We got t-shirts and sweatshirts for the autumn winter, so that's kind of like an upfront investment, I guess, but that's in that 5,797 cost as well. And then we have like other bits and pieces, things to put on the walls and fragrance and soaps and whatever else, and that came to about £690. So all those things combined come to that 5,797, quite a large cost out of all of it. And then lastly, signage menus, so doing the business out the front and getting it painted and getting menus printed for food menus, drinks menus, and so on. That came to £1,840.86. Hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea of what it costs to get a business open. How that gets accounted for, well, some of this stuff is capital expenditure. It's upfront investment, basically. We're going to buy something at the start and then use it for 3 to 4 years. And the way the accountants will record that is a little bit of that cost applying to every year that we trade, as opposed to a year one cost. Do I think that you could do it for a lot less than that? Yeah, I do. I think if we had have started from scratch and built this space, I still think we would have come up spending about the same or perhaps even more. And I think we did well to buy a decent pre-existing business. And if I was doing it again, I think I'd still make that choice. I think the results have been good. What would I do differently if we were doing this again that might save us some money? I think I would come up with a really strong plan on what changes we wanted to make, and then be careful with the quotes and the tradesmen. Some of those trades, I think we could have spent a little bit less, and we ended up spending more because we rushed a little bit. We had a business reason for that. We wanted to get open before all the May bank holidays, and that did very well for us, so I don't regret it. But I think we could have saved a bit of money on the trades if we had have planned better and got a few more quotes ahead of time. That about wraps it up. There's a lot more I could talk about what we've actually been doing for the past almost coming in for the 3 months now since we took the business on, as it's been crazy busy. But I will save that for another video and stop this one going on for too long. If you're still with me, thank you so much for listening. And I'm sorry again that it's been so long since we last did a video. I will endeavor to get one out sooner or faster than 90 days for the next one. So thank you very much, and I will see you next time.